Hello everybody, I hope you're having a good day wherever this video may find you. My name is Jacob Land and this is my presentation on humility within ethical communication. This presentation was given for the Bryan College class, an online course, Communication Ethics and Issues. This presentation was given on August 9th, 2024. Here we have some of the table of contents and the parts of the presentation I'll be going over. We can just review those really fast. Part 1, we have the companion piece. Part 2, semblance and truth. Part 3, not like us. And Part 4, biblical humility. On the right side of this graph, you will see my references that we have compiled. So let's move on to Part 1. The companion piece, humility as a social virtue. So humility is less individualistic and is better used when strengthening connections and understanding with others. Humility helps people recognize the autonomy of others, and it's a prerequisite for recognizing virtue and value itself. So humility diminishes the focus on oneself. It is the balance between low self-esteem and arrogance, a posture that seeks and maintains social harmony. And we've spoken quite a lot over the course of this class about the balances of virtue that lie between the excess and the lack of, and the vices that can emerge from that excess and lack of a virtue. So here we're going to move on to part 2, semblance and truth. So during the patristic age, the British theologian Pelagius said, "Truly you must follow humility, not the kind that is displayed and simulated by bodily gesture or by subduing the utterance of one's words, but that which is expressed in the natural disposition of one's heart. For it is one thing to pursue the shadow of things, another the reality. The pride which hides beneath outward signs of humility is made much more ugly thereby. For by some means or other, vices are more unsightly when they are concealed behind an outward semblance of virtue." So Pelagius is describing this mask, and it's a vice hidden behind virtue. And this is a danger that comes when we are practicing humility, and you'll see it all the time, especially with people who assume a posture of humility. They can fall into a pitfall, this kind of arrogance of no one is as humble as I. So it's just a good thing to look out for, especially when you're practicing humility and ethical communication. All right, part 3, not like us. Here we're going to recognize and address assumptions about others. So humility can help us soften realizations and actualizations that may be false. We have a lot of assumptions about ourselves. We have a lot of assumptions about other people in our lives. And overcoming assumptions can be difficult, but steps can be taken to find and correct them. Here I have the steps lined out. We need to define assumptions. We need to empathize with those who hold them. We need to ideate, and we need to address these assumptions. The first step, of course, is defining and recognizing an ethical and assumption issue, and that is the most important step. Here we're going to move on to part 4, biblical humility, which is just advice from the Gospels and letters within the Bible. And I found this very interesting that the words humble and humility appear roughly 80 times in almost every translation of the Bible. But I want to read this verse from Luke chapter 14, 11 through 14. The Gospel of Luke says, "For all those who exalt themselves will be humbled, and those who humble themselves will be exalted." Then he turned to his host. "When you put on a banquet," he said, "do not invite your friends, brothers, relatives, and rich neighbors, for they will invite you back, and that will be only for your reward. Instead, invite the poor, the crippled, the lame, and the blind. Then, at the resurrection of the righteous, God will reward you for inviting those who could not repay you." So I think that Luke is again talking about what Pelagius touched on, which is not to mask this vice with a visage of virtue. So in the verse, Jesus is talking about men who will throw a banquet for their rich friends because they understand that they are in turn going to get a banquet thrown for them, instead to do things for the needy and the less fortunate just because out of humility, not out of a want for uh, a reward. So that is going to conclude my presentation for today. I thank you all for watching, and I hope you learned something. Uh, Everybody have a good day.